According to the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, on average 24 people are being displaced every minute in the world in 2015. This equals a total of 65.3 million people being forcibly displaced around the world in 2015. All these people together will make up the 21st largest nation on Earth. The main reasons behind it are three: the increase of length of ongoing conflicts, the frequency of eruption of new ones, and a lack of timely and appropriate solutions for displaced people. Due to its proximity to Africa and due to cultural bonds with Latin America, Spain has been always important in terms of migration.
So we are here today to present to you an initiative that we have developed over the course of the last months called Platos Sin Fronteras. Now the overall aim of this initiative is to foster the integration of refugees within the General Society of Madrid through cooking classes. On a side note, we also want to highlight that in the framework of this presentation, we consider we consider a person a refugee that has been forcibly displaced from his home country, even if they don't have the legal status.
As our initiative evolves around the topic of food, we want to introduce today in this presentation the different ingredients that led us to our final dish, Platos Sin Fronteras. The ingredients required were first a contextualization of Lavapiés, the engagement with established organizations as well as refugees, a pinch of theoretical framework of acculturation, and then lastly we added our secret ingredient, our mother organization, Über den Tellerrand kochen. As for every recipe, we highlight for you for each step of the process the time required, the amount of people that it serves or that are needed to cook it, and of course the level of difficulty.
So in the framework of our final project, we set the objective to contribute meaningfully to the facilitation of the integration of refugees within the context of Spain, more specifically in Madrid. We decided to concentrate our focal points on the neighborhood of Lavapiés due to its singularity as an area, which is manifested in three main aspects. Firstly, there's a high rate of foreign population within the neighborhood that either lives there or spends their free time in the area. A total of 88 nationalities spread out in 107 streets. There's a persistent negative stereotypes attached to the neighborhood. According to the media that have named the neighborhood and its inhabitants a glue-sniffing gang, a jihadist cell, and of course a drug-selling point. And according to the available literature on Lavapiés, they mentioned that there's two parallel societies with different levels of legitimacy, with the legitimate one blaming the others for the whole social malaise within the neighborhood, without actually giving them the opportunity to express their opinions and feelings.
This phase of the project is an ongoing of 1 month and a half, and we used 10 external sources, but the complication was not that high. To complement the reviewed literature about Lavapiés, we decided to get in contact with different organizations. Actually, we contacted 40 organizations, out of which 5 of them, the ones that appear in the slide, actively engaged with us. After our meetings with them and our own experience, the conclusions can be summarized as followed. All acknowledge a general negative discourse around the area of Lavapiés, which was also reflected in our own experience. For instance, talking to a police officer from the district center, he identified Lavapiés as a social ghetto and even went further, saying that comparing it with Molenbeek in Brussels that was associated with the Paris and Brussels attacks at the end of last year. Furthermore, we were clearly able to see that integration is not on the political agenda, which was also comprehended by the cut of cuts in personnel and the closure of institutions within the social public sector. For instance, the closure of the Centros de Atención Social de Inmigrantes. Based on a review of activities that the organization offered for immigrants, we noticed that most of the measures are centered on an auto-integration perspective rather than a bilateral approach of integration. Activities are often widely overlapping and generally include language apprehension, legal advice, and employability.
So to get a better understanding about the problems faced by immigrants, we, from their own perspective, we wanted to engage with 3 refugees. As all the qualitative engaged persons, they were forcibly displaced. So in the framework of this presentation, we considered them as refugees. We also want to highlight that the journeys to Europe they took, that you could see in the initial video, were not random routes. Those were the specific routes that our friends Erwin from Venezuela, Bina from Mali, and Khalid from Syria took to Europe, and whose opinions will be explained in the following slides.
After the presentation, we will provide you by the different case studies that we use to make our research based on their own experience. And based on their experience as asylum seekers in Madrid, we identified the following 3 barriers of integration with their own perspective. There is a big uncertainty regarding the red card, which is a document issued by the state to every asylum applicant for the duration of the application process. This process officially lasts 6 months, but in reality it can take more than 2 years. During this period, it's important to highlight that the asylum applicant cannot leave the Spanish territory. The red card needs to be renewed every 6 months and can be taken from the holder at any time, which leads to the inability to find a stable job and proper housing. All of them felt a lack of recognition in terms of their previous studies and work experience. Even though they are willing to contribute to the Spanish economy, they feel forced into a recipient role. Lastly, the 3 consider the general increase of awareness a key enabler for them, as they find it hard to engage with people outside their ethnocultural and asylum seeker networks. This is reflected by the fact that they describe their own situation as being islands in the middle of a system in which even public workers and citizens are not familiar with their situation and rights.
Okay, so against this background, we wanted to complement our research findings with a theoretical background, for which we used the theory of acculturation by John Barry. This is very relevant for us because once you start reading the literature, it's easy to find out that the terminology is very vague and often contradicting, so we really need to know what we're talking about in terms of theory. So according to Barry, acculturation is the dual process of cultural and psychological change that takes place as a result of contact between 2 or more cultural groups and their individual members. We chose this theory because we think that it highlights very well the reciprocal nature in which that incorporates both the interests of the receiving society as well as of the interests of the non-dominant group, which in our case are the refugees, thus encompassing all into the process. Differences in interest as to how the acculturation process is undergone lead to the distinction of different strategies characterized by different behaviors and attitudes. As you can see here, there are 2 main issues along which the strategies can range. One is the relative preference to interact and to form relationships with the wider societies and with other cultural groups, and the other one is the relative preference for the maintenance of one's heritage, culture, and identity. Evolving from the positioning within these 2 spectra, we define 4 strategies for both the larger society, the dominant group, and the ethnocultural groups, which are the refugees in our case. So relevant in our case is the integration part, which is here defined as the simultaneous pursuance of maintaining one's heritage culture while having a high level of interaction with the wider society. You can see here, high relationship sought with the wider society and other groups, and a high level of of the heritage culture. So the really important point about this, according to Barry, is that the intentions of the non-dominant groups are often barriers by the strategy imposed by the larger society. Therefore, and that is really complementing our research findings, it is crucial that a larger society fosters multiculturalism, and that integration can only take place in a bilateral process when a culturally pluralistic society is fostered by the dominant group.
Okay, in the previous slides, we explained to you the different ingredients that form the key steps for us to develop our final dish, Platos Sin Fronteras. We understand that what is missing is a greater awareness from the wider society of Madrid about immigrants, and a facilitation of a multicultural society. Therefore, we want to contribute to this process by bringing people together in a multicultural environment. These conclusions led us to the adding of our final ingredient, our mother organization, Ouvert en Telerancoge, because it perfectly fills the gap we identified in Madrid. This German initiative creates encounters between refugees and locals on an equal basis through cooking classes and other activities.
To give you a quick background about the history of Über den Tellerrand kochen, they were founded in October 2013 in Berlin in the framework of a university project. And at that time, Berlin was completely overstrained by the huge influx of refugees, and the situation went so far that there were refugees camping outside of the regional office for health and social affairs, where they have to file their asylum applications waiting for the process. So the team wanted to engage with these refugees, and in the end they decided to just grab a Bunsen burner, some cooking utensils and different ingredients, and go to the square and invite people to cook with them. And this proved to be so successful that they created a book with different recipes and the stories of the refugees. And the initiative became famous overnight, literally, due to a newspaper magazine and one of the biggest German news websites. And they received a scholarship from the Social Impact Lab in Berlin for 8 months of an office space. So against this background, they decided they don't only want to create awareness, they want to facilitate encounters, and they started their first cooking class and launched a join-in campaign where they invited other people throughout Germany to cook with refugees and send back their recipes. The result of this is this first professional and second actual recipe book, which you can have a look at later. Furthermore, they set up an association because they really wanted to create a movement, and with the association they enlarged the community and also could diversify their income streams. Also, they started to expand to other locations, but Eduard will explain that in a second. And lastly, at the end of last year, they moved into their own facilities, which they call a kitchen hub, thanks to the donations from supporting members, other donors, and the proceeds from their own recipe book.
So as you can guess, this initiative won several awards, and just to name a few, firstly they won the Think Big program, and then they were even part of the World Exhibition of the German Pavilion in 2015 in Milan. So in order for them to scale up their project, they implemented a satellite program. And what exactly is a satellite program? A satellite program is basically they facilitate the setup of their initiative within other European cities. Currently, satellites exist in 27 cities across Germany, Netherlands, Switzerland, and with Platos Sin Fronteras now in Spain. They have also started another project, which is Kitchen on the Run, which is a kitchen container that travels among other European cities in order to increase awareness.
So, back to Platos Sin Fronteras, our vision is to bring people together, both refugees and local people, to create a joint multicultural society by the activity of cooking. We want to become a role model for an open and tolerant society in which refugees are welcomed, diversity and mutual acceptance are promoted, and integration becomes fun. We intend to do so by creating first encounters on an equal base and by presenting the topic of migration in a more positive light. As taking our mother organization as an example, we propose a hybrid business structure in which a social business is set up to organize cooking classes with refugees as chefs, And by this, we are having the chance to present concrete people behind the terms migration and flight, create awareness amongst the participants, and create first encounters. The profits from this will go to our charitable organization, which serves to create a wider community via free of charge events such as football games or picnics. And with both sides of the initiative, we contribute to the creation of a joint society.
So I hope you left some space for the dessert, our pilot phase. So in order to quickly test the receptivity of our project proposal, we decided to follow a lean startup method in which we test the cooking concept without a formal setup of the business. Now, what this allows us is to analyze and adapt the model into the Madrid context in a fast and low-cost manner. Now, in order to do this, we conducted a feasibility analysis in which we identified key enablers and key challenges. So firstly, obviously we benefited immensely from UDT's know-how, experience and image in order to generate a certain amount of trust and support from local key organizations. Secondly, the collaborations with these local organizations has really benefited us in various ways, such as gaining the local knowledge, gaining important contacts, also finding cooking facilities and valuable feedback. And thirdly, the complementation, which basically we really felt that the organization acknowledged the fact that our initiative complemented the already existing integration activities. So barriers, and you might now think, why dependency? Well, this is quite straightforward. In order to coordinate on events, we needed to check the availability of the location availability together with the chef's availability. As we're replicating the business model from Germany, it was necessary to explore that the applications needed to be made to the context of Madrid. And thirdly, basically, we also needed to find out if the willingness to pay for our cooking classes was high enough in order to financially sustain the business side of our initiative.
For the pilot phase, we intend to organize 3 cooking events, of which the first one has already taken place last week. This pilot phase will run until October 2016, and to measure the progress and success of our initiative, we consider 3 key areas of impact: cooking classes, community events, and social media awareness. In total, we have identified and defined 3 actionable metrics to assess awareness, encounters and participations. Just to name a few: amount of registrations for public cooking classes, total amount of people attending community events, or total amount of Facebook page likes within the people in Madrid. To finish off, we want to show you a small video of our first event, because we think that a video is worth 1,000 words.
Je voudrais que nous nous
enjoy today's recipe for bringing people together.
Bravo!
I'm posting my first like.
Sin fronteras.
Well, guys, congratulations. You are approaching a really complex topic, immigration. One of the key points of the Brexit. So it's, and in the European Union now, it's a big debate going on, so it's really hard. I saw the development of your project a bit. And I was really impressed about with your ability to deep immerse in the social reality of Lavapiés so quickly, because in the beginning I know you didn't know the neighborhood. So now you have met people, you have understood their realities. So I believe your sensing phase was really, really nice. Really nice. So I really congratulate you about that. Some people in Lavapiés, they say, for example, for the last 6 months, I don't go to Madrid. So the people, and you know that it's really different from Madrid, you know? So people feel that. So it's, you are tackling a really complex topic because it's separated from Madrid. Even the Spanish people who live there and like this multicultural atmosphere of Lavapiés, they also think and feel like that. I would like to. It's not. It's a question. I'd like to know what is your most important thing, what learning experience you had when being in contact with the people on the field, because this is something, as we always mention, that the organizations are losing when trying to develop socially societies, and you consider that you are really aware about that, and this is key, in my opinion. So please just tell us, each of you, a story, an experience, something remarkable for you in this process, considering the connection with the people, the real people.
I think it might be different for all of us, but for sure we have certain shared aspects. I think for me personally, especially when we met Bina, we have known him for 3 weeks. No. It's the... no, I can't.
Right, I basically think that we all agree on this one. It's when we met Bina. I mean, the first thing he just said like, I just want some friends to play football with. So that's how it started off with, because it's very hard for them to actually get in contact with people outside of Lavapiés. He doesn't actually live in Lavapiés. He lives a bit further away in Madrid, and he spends all his free time in Lavapiés. He doesn't come out of Lavapiés. So for us, just to be able to share a meal with him, because we shared 2 meals with him already, and we went for some drinks with him, and you can see like the happiness, and he really feels confident, and it's actually really become a real friend for us. And I think we all agree on this fact.
That's what I wanted to say.
All right.
Thank you. What Lalo said, we saw from the very beginning, like, because we went to Lavapiés and we saw that this cultural people, society going there, but actually not going in deep to the social issues that are happening there. We were there and we were not aware of what is going on. And on the other side, there is like the organization working in an unilateral way with them. So bringing these two sides together is what for us make the huge impact, because in few weeks we get so closer to them that we acknowledged that they were willing to this to happen, and we were open to share these moments with them.
I think that's basically what Fatih said, is that you need to see the people behind it, not see them as refugees or asylum seekers, because, for example, Khalid from Syria, he told us that he had some issues in bureaucratic things, and he talked to the person in charge for him, and with some issues, and they were just saying like, really, we're not here to work only for you, but those are people that have such a strong story that went through so much to come here, and they face so many problems because they're not considered as individuals but seen as a group. And I think that's really also how the initiative can contribute to it, and like that is backed up by Bina's comment that he wants friends and by so many things.
I think it's remarkable that you already have done a prototype. It's really nice. You struggle a lot to find your idea, to connect with your idea, to look for something meaningful. I know that, and it's very positive as well. It's really hard to engage the local communities in Lavapiés. I know that as well. And you struggle a lot, and you were able to engage them. In the end, engagement is really important in everything you do. And I hope your commitment would really make all of us be more aware about what's going on, not just in Lavapiés, but in the society as a whole and in the world. So congratulations.
I had, well, the first question is, why did I miss the invitation to this? It's just, I'm really feeling that's a key question.
Because there will be an event,
There'll be
actually, yeah, and communicated by the
Oh, so I didn't miss it. Okay, phew.
communicated
This was worried.
by you.
No, but there's a second one.
Okay,
There's
okay.
a second one, hopefully within the next 2 weeks.
Brilliant. So amazing and beautiful, and just goes to the point of such a, what is perceived as a huge problem, which is actually a huge potential. And these people are not problems, they've got so much to give, and we're just using them or clustering them as problems, which has effects for us as a society of dividing, but for them as human beings, that they lose their human beingness, which is the worst thing that we can do to any human being. And practically so that was in a kitchen, a private kitchen, so how can this then be scaled? Because I think we all want to go it and go forward, and how can this be moved to the next level? And then within the cooking parties you learn, but then there's the sharing. And how can that sharing become a storytelling? How can you do more with that sharing? Because I see tears in your eyes, I think there'll be tears in everybody's eyes, which will push a lot of interest, bring down a lot of barriers. I think that you have something really powerful when people are together, capturing the moment, making the most of this time together for the people around the table, but also for the millions that could look at it and see it from other sides and then replicate it in other parts of Spain.
Okay. So awareness is going to happen two sides, one in the community events, another in the cooking events, and also, apart from that, in the Facebook page. So firstly, we wanted, it's not a private kitchen, it's a small shop in Lavapiés called La Vida Tiene Sentidos, because we want to start small and start growing. That's the lean startup thing. And then we decided to be also small at the beginning because we are new in organizing this type of events, so we wanted to see how the logistics are going and how the chef feel in this new ambience for him also. So that's why we chose starting small. Also, one of the organizations we contact is the Mercado San Fernando, which is in the heart of Lavapiés, and we have the possibility to use the portable kitchen wherever we want. So this probably is going to be the next event is going to happen there.
Just add on. It is in the middle of a public market, so that would be very great in terms of public
I love that
communication.
market, it's beautiful.
And like Fatima said, I think this. Oh, sorry. Do I finish? All right. So as Fatima said, for us it was such a great learning experience. You know, we never organized an event like this. Me personally, I never got in real contact with a refugee before. So learning all these things and also incorporating the positive feedback we've had with the local organizations and the people was essential. And I think now the second event is going to be bigger than the first one.
We conducted a feedback questionnaire for the first event to see how the people felt in this ambience, and actually the feedback was really good, and two of them actually never engaged with a refugee, and they become more aware of the issue. So we want this kind of feedback to see if they will come in another time and how they feel in this multicultural thing. And I don't know what, I'm lost. What you have to do? Yeah, it's going to be
a public event. It's going to be advertised on Facebook, on social media. We're going to send
by the Impact Hub.
by the Impact Hub. So I mean, it's just registration.
So maybe just to add in terms of scaling, I think what is really key and what is also intended by our German mother organization is really like the communication, the online communication. Every satellite has their own Facebook page. They're all connected. We are communicated on the main website, but Über den Tellerrand Kochen has a huge, huge name in Germany. They have won awards from the government. I don't know, their list of awards is really long, both for integration but also for gastronomical excellence. And I think also what is maybe an advantage for Berlin, but as well as for Madrid, we're in capital cities and a lot of people are coming in, but potentially maybe go back to, I don't know, Malaga or wherever they're coming from, Sevilla. And if they enjoy this initiative here and they think it's great, they will probably take back this idea. Like, for example, I got to know the initiative in Berlin where I'm from, and we were all so excited about it that now it's in Madrid, so it's kind of like reproducing itself.
And a small communication issue, and I think I know the answer. So you see the 3 photos of you, it's you. Here is just then. Yes. I think it's because you want to protect, because the refugee. Okay,
exactly.
Just checking.
And also we wanted to highlight that this person can be
anybody.
Everybody.
Yes. I just want to ask you about the immigrant refugee interface. You've sometimes used the terms interchangeably. Leo has talked about the importance of this initiative in terms of the immigration challenge that, for example, we've faced in the UK, the anti-immigration vote that has led to Brexit. And I'm interested in what your understanding of that interface is and why you particularly chose to focus on refugees rather than the immigrant community as a whole.
Maybe we need to, like, for this to understand, go a step back in how we approach the project, because when we started, we already knew the initiative and we were very fascinated by it, but we didn't start the project by saying that we want to implement this. We really started to go into the field and talk to people and really gather like the general state of immigration in Lavapiés, Madrid, and that's also how we approach the organizations. But the thing is that, first of all, like, it's so vague sometimes. That's why we defined at the beginning that for us refugees are every person that is forcibly displaced, because in the end a refugee is a legal status that is acknowledged by a country. But in our opinion, a person can be an asylum seeker and was forcibly displaced, or you could even enter into a country as an irregular or like an illegal immigrant. So when we talk about immigrants, we mean every one of these, but also economic immigrants. And there often we have the distinction really between expats, so maybe that would be someone like Eduard and me, which we're not really tackling because they came by their own choice, and then with so-called economic immigrants, which tend to come from the south as described by the literature, and there it gets really difficult to approach the people, because we tried to encounter them on the street at the beginning. Eduard, with his French, really tried to engage with people. It was very, very tough, and we acknowledge that refugees, in our meaning, encompassing not only the legal status, have a special situation because they come, like they cause at the moment these big influxes, which create more acculturation stress than maybe economic migrants. Can also come in big groups, but they don't tend to as refugees. And they are very vulnerable due to the facts, for example, here with the red card that we highlighted, they cannot leave the country. They need to integrate here. It's not their choice. Like, for example, Bina told us he would love to go to France, because for African people it's easier to integrate there, but he can't choose. So that's why they don't have these freedoms of choices. We feel that they're especially vulnerable in comparison to economic immigrants, and in that sense.
And also, just to complement what you said now, like what Bina explained us was also like, if the applicant process ended up rejecting your application, they have 2 options, or becoming an irregular immigrant or going back to their country. And mainly, most of them got into irregular migration and started the vicious cycle again. That's why we wanted to focus now in this process about our own definition and not thinking of legal status and this kind of bureaucratic.
It's a grey area, so it's sometimes very hard to difficult to distinguish.
Thank you.